Hi, welcome to the Round Lake Area Public Library's program, Felt Flowers. The supplies you'll be needing today are as follows: felt in various different colors, a ruler, scissors, or a rotary cutter, or both, glue of some sort that will work with felt like hot glue, Aleene's tacky glue, or other fabric glue, and floral wire. The first flower we're going to make today is similar to a peony, and what you're first going to need is to cut 3 strips 12 inches long. The first strip should be a 1/2 inch wide. The second strip should be 1 inch wide, and the third strip should be 1.5 inches wide. Next, you're going to cut rectangles out of your strips. They don't have to be a set size. They don't have to be perfect. Just cut some rectangles, and from this we are going to be cutting petals. Starting with the smallest rectangles, we're going to be trimming one end of them, just cutting small angles. And then we're going to flip it over to the other side and cut it so that it's rounded. So basically the shape that you want to end up with is a small light bulb. We're going to continue cutting the medium-sized petals in the same fashion. And then we're going to repeat exactly the same with the large petals. Next, starting with the smallest petals, you're going to take a piece of floral wire and a single petal, put a little bit of glue on the flat end, and then wrap it around the tip of the floral wire and hold it together until it holds. Repeat this process with another petal, and then another, and another, until you've gone around the entire flower and you are happy with the number of small petals that you have added. When you're pleased with the inner core of small petals that you've put on your flower, you can move to the medium-sized petals and start adding those. When your flower has filled out nicely, you're going to move on to the larger petals. How many petals you use is completely up to you. You may have a lot left over, or you may need to go back and cut more strips. Whatever makes you happy, however your flower looks best in your eyes. Next, we're going to cut a square of dark green that's about 2 inches by 2 inches. Then we're going to cut the corners and turn it into a circle. Next, you're going to fold your circle in half and give it a slit in the center. Don't go all the way through, about halfway. And then you're going to fold it in half in the other direction and give it another slit in the center there as well. From here, you're simply going to go around each side of your slits and round off those edges. I like to go all 4 in one direction and then flip it over and then do 4 in the other direction, so that you're going to end up with something that looks similar to a clover. With your scissors, you're going to want to poke a small hole right in the center of your clover. To give these leaves some texture, we're going to put a little drop of glue right in the middle and close the clover leaf at the center so that it opens at the edge and comes together in the middle. We're going to repeat this on all 4 leaves. Next, you're going to impale the leaf that you just made with the floral wire, give it a little bit of glue, and then stick it to the bottom of your flower. This covers up a lot of the messy pieces of felt on the bottom, and it also makes it look like it's a bud. The floral wire you were given in your kit is 16 inches long, so if you cut off about a 4-inch section off the bottom, it'll still leave a long enough stem. You're going to use that cut off piece and wrap it around the main stem, and this is going to be the main vein for the leaves that are going to be on your stem. Using the same dark green colored felt, cut out 2 leaf shapes. It doesn't matter what they look like. And then you're going to put a little bit of glue on the bottom and attach them to the little leaf stems that you just put on your stem, and fold them in half at the base so that they flare out nicely at the edges. With some minor adjustments in shaping and fluffing up the leaves, you end up with a very beautiful flower. The second type of flower that we're going to make is going to look a little bit like a dahlia. It requires 2 colors. I'm going to make mine in pink and yellow. The yellow is going to be the center of the flower and the pink will be the petals. So what you do is you start off with a 1-inch strip and you want to make it about 8 inches long. To save time, I like to fold mine in half, and from there we're just going to be making fringe. You're going to cut little slices about halfway up the strip and then about 1/8 of an inch wide, sometimes a little bit smaller, but just make sure that your fringe goes the entire length of your strip. Next, I cut my pink felt, which is going to be 2 inches by 12 inches wide. With your strip, you're going to cut 1 1/4 inch sections all the way down, which should give you 8 or 9 pieces to work with. This time we're going to cut these petals in the shape of what I like to think of as bunny ears. One side has a thin, narrow edge, and it comes to a point on the other side. Taking your yellow fringe piece and a piece of floral wire, you're going to take the end that doesn't have the fringe, put a glob of glue on it, and start wrapping it around your floral wire. And wrap it really neatly so that the base all lines up. And keep following along, adding more glue about 1.5 inches at a time, and just wrapping. I'd recommend wrapping by turning the flower itself and not turning the stem, because if you keep turning the stem, you may take the glue right off of it and the stem will come right out. So just turn the flower gently as you're adding more and more to it all the way around in a circle. This is a harder petal to make because what you need to do is put a small amount of glue in the center, fold it in half, pinch it until it starts to hold, and then what you're going to do is put glue on the opposite side and then fold the petal back down on itself again so that you're making a W or an M shape depending on which direction you're looking at it. This is where I burned myself with the hot glue over and over and over again and no longer have fingerprints. So if you find that you can't quite get that M or W shape by folding and doing kind of a gathering at the ends, then just fold it in half. That should be fine. When your 8 petals are complete, you can now start adding them to the yellow fringe already on the floral wire. What I like to do to make sure that they're spaced evenly is I will glue one on the side, and then I will glue another exactly opposite that. And then I'll glue one to the left and to the right so that you kind of have the north, south, east, west thing going on. And then after that, you glue in between. So then you'll have your 8 petals that go all the way around, 4 on the inside, 4 on the outside. Next, I take my neon green felt and I will cut a 2 by 2 inch square. And this is going to be the base of the bud for the flower. This time, instead of turning it into a circle, I'm going to leave it a square, but I'm going to do the same thing, cutting slits in the sides, and then turning it and cutting the leaf shapes from that, just trimming off and giving them more definition. I make sure I give my leaf a little hole in the center. I spear it right down the floral wire, and then I give it a good glop of glue to attach it to the base of the flower. From here, I wasn't a big fan of the flat look, so I took a little bit more glue and pulled it up the sides of the flower to give it a little bit more shape. Next, I take the neon green felt again, and this time instead of cutting oval shaped leaves to add to the stem, I'm going to cut some very long foliage to add just for some drama. Again, I repeated cutting off about a 4-inch section of the bottom of the floral stem, and that gave me something to wrap around the top so that I could glue the leaves to it. And there we have our pretty pink flower that looks a little bit like a dahlia. If you did it in the right colors, it might look like a daisy as well, so very nice. Our third flower is very different. It's going to look like something between a delphinium or larkspur or lavender, but I choose to do them in shades of blue and purple. And the first thing I'm going to do is cut a 12-inch by 1.5-inch strip, and then I'm going to start gluing it, and I'm just gluing the edge all the way down so that you can see that I am gluing it in half. Now we're going to be cutting fringe again, just like we did with the second flower. But what we want to do is take the side with the loop, not the side that we just glued, but the side that's folded in half. And we're just going to cut about halfway. I could tell when I hit the glue part that I needed to stop cutting, so that was kind of my indication on how deep to go with these cuts. And again, they're about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit smaller. Next, I cut a piece of floral wire in half. Since it's a 16-inch piece of floral wire, that gives me about an 8-inch stem to work with, which is perfectly fine. So you're going to take your fringe and you're going to do just like you did with the second flower, give it a little bit of glue on the edge where there's no fringe, and start wrapping around the end of your floral wire. Now, you're not going to keep going and going and going like you did with the yellow. You're going to make a circle, and then you're slowly going to start wrapping lower and lower and lower down the length of your floral stem. I found that the best thing to do was to go maybe an inch, nothing more than that, and wrap. And then I had to squeeze really tight at the base. Otherwise, it was just getting wider and wider and wider. So once I put my glue on, wrap it around, and then squeeze like crazy at the bottom to make sure that it's nice and narrow. You continue doing this all the way down. It should give you at least 2 inches of flower head, and then you'll get to the end and just finish it off and glue it nice and tight. This one's my favorite. It turns out so cute and so nice and fluffy, and it really does look like lavender or larkspur or delphinium. Next, I kind of do the same as what I've done before, a 2-inch square, and then I create a base that'll hold the bud of my flower. The same thing, fold it in half, cut a slit, fold it in half again, cut another slit, trim around, give the leaves some shape, put a hole in the middle, and then spear it onto the floral wire. And there we go. That flower is complete now, absolutely adorable. And I'm going to repeat the exact same process in the 2 other colors, the dark blue and the light blue. Just these 3 flowers together look adorable, and I think if you made a whole bunch of them and put them together as one bouquet, that would be really pretty. So now you have 3 basic flower types that you can make, and you can vary these in a lot of different ways with different shaped petals. And I'm going to quickly throw together one that you can see where I made the petals look a little bit more rose-like. I call this the Hershey Kiss shaped petals, and it's basically the same as the first flower that we made, the red one that I made, and you're just going to repeat all of the process, but the petals are just going to be shaped a little bit differently. You could also do this in green and make it look like a lotus flower or a succulent. For the foliage on this one, all I did was cut an X shape, and because we're working with felt, you can be really creative and you can stretch and twist and do all kinds of things to the shape to adjust it a little bit so that you have more shape when you create your petals. As another option, instead of making a bouquet with the floral wire stems, you could skip the stems altogether and just create a centerpiece, and that is quite beautiful as well. This is one of the cheaper crafts that you could try if you were interested in continuing. Some of the flowers that you can make are really stunning. Plus, they don't need sunlight or water, and they're very easy to care for. We thank you for joining us today for our Felt Flowers program. Please post photos of your finished flowers in the comments. We would love to see them.